So this is an event that we have done. We've moved this around a little bit, and we've brought this to a couple of locations, a couple of venues, a couple of senior centers, if you will, some other venues in different communities. The idea behind the event is to have you hear from a panel of very smart, very educated, very experienced. And by experienced, we mean in their field. It doesn't mean that everybody up here is getting older, because we all look the same as we did when we were 25. But to hear about people who have done this a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean as estate planning attorneys, as people in the different fields that you're going to hear from today, we talk a lot about the things that we do for clients, but we also recognize that in our capacity as advisors, I probably have had conversations like this that we're going to have today 25, 30 times a month. Everybody up here can tell you countless stories about the things that they've dealt with as they've worked with different folks. And so I want you guys to know that you are hearing from the experts, you are hearing from the people who understand the entire journey that we're about to talk about. And when I say journey, that's what it is. We talk about this as the care continuum. That's what the flyer says, okay? And what that means is that this is a journey for everybody, right? You're home, you might have some services coming in, you might move to a different living arrangement, you might need more medical care, and at some point, this is a journey, and where the journey goes, everybody's gonna be a little bit different. And to lead you through this journey, there are a couple of folks that I wanna just give their introduction to, and then they're gonna talk about their background. Myself, I'm an estate planning attorney, elder law attorney. I've been here in Holliston for 16 years in private practice doing this. You're going to hear from Daniela Masters, who works as care manager, Aging Well Advocates. She's going to talk about her background. You're going to hear from Alicia McCallum, who works over at Cornerstone in Milford. You're going to hear from Kathy Chisholm, who's a realtor here in town. And you're going to hear from Larry Poirier, who works at some of the elder services that are locally here to talk about some things that are available for you. So what are we talking about? So we're talking about what happens as we kind of move through this journey and what your options are as you go through this. So I'll tell you a quick story. So I went down to Pittsburgh over the weekend, and I was in a room. This sounds really exciting. I was in a room with 15 other law firms, and they were all elder law attorneys, and they were all estate planning attorneys. I know, you're riveted. That's so exciting. I know it sounds like spring break for attorneys. And so what we all were talking about was our practices and how we work with our clients. But what was amazing to me was there were firms from all over the country there. And everybody was talking about the same exact thing. They were talking about, there's two parts to your journey. One of them is the things that we do as lawyers, which is paperwork, right? Which is the things that you've heard me preach about over and over again. Healthcare proxies, powers of attorney, wills, trusts, irrevocable trusts. We talked about that for about 2 seconds. And then the rest of the weekend was talking about managing this other part that we're going to talk about today. How your health is critically important to every aspect of the plan. Our piece as lawyers is to be the advice and guidance folks, but that's around the legal stuff. And the legal stuff, unless you're fighting with your family, is not going to be that big a deal. What you're really going to need help with is how to navigate this care continuum with the help of all the professionals that you're going to see over here to the right that are going to talk about different things. You may visit with all of us, you may visit with one of us, but all of these people are integral to everybody's sort of journey through this whole, we keep talking about the care continuum. So we set everybody up in a certain way. We set everybody up kind of how we think this might happen, right? Larry's going to talk about a lot of the services that are available in your community. Daniela is going to talk about all the services that can also be available to you in your community. But we're going to talk about your community may change over time. Kathy's going to talk about how do you handle that change in your community over time. And then the Cornerstone folks are going to talk about if your community is them, if Alicia says, hey, your community is us, how do you get here? How do we pull that whole thing together? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Larry. I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to invite everybody to continue to listen. And any questions, we'll have Q&A at the end of the presentation when everybody can kind of hear everything and then jump in and answer some questions. Sound good? All right, here we go.
Okay, thank you, Jay. My name is Larry Poria. I am the outreach manager at Springwell. Springwell is one of the largest aging service access points in the state of Massachusetts. We serve 22 different towns with the goal of providing information, advice, and services to keep folks independent. My role today is going to be a little bit different than my regular job. I'm going to share with you the story of Larry and Kathy Poria, who were my parents. My dad passed away 10 years ago from Alzheimer's. My mom died of liver cancer. They went through the stages of independent living, being in their own home, going to independent care, assisted living, and finally into dementia care. So that's going to be my focus today. I'm going to tell you the stuff we did right and the problems that we had. Just as a beginning, my parents had their own condo in Situate for about 10 years. Finally, when they got into their mid-80s, they made the choice, and I'm going to focus on you. This is your choice. They made the choice to say, we want to start looking at assisted living facilities. They found a beautiful place in Braintree where they moved into. They ended up there for about 7 years. They went from the independent living part to assisted living to finally my father had Alzheimer's. They moved him up to dementia care. I'd like to tell you it was easy. By the end of it, I was burnt out. I do this for a living. I'm now in my 33rd year of doing human services. By the end of it, even though we had a wonderful, wonderful experience with the assisted living site, it was exhausting at the end. But big picture, both my mom and my dad wanted to die at home. I had the opportunity to be the child who was there when both of them passed away. I wouldn't regret it for a million years. They got what they wanted on that end. My advice is going to be this. This is a process. The first thing you need to do is have a plan. Have a plan. Well, Larry, what does that mean? First thing I'll tell you is you need to go to an elder law attorney. You've got to have your affairs in order. Setting up a trust, ideally a irrevocable trust, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. Having a power of attorney, having a health care proxy. Why am I emphasizing this? Because in my 33 years of doing human services, I have seen people say, I haven't had a will, or they have substantial assets in their home, outside, and say, well, I don't have a trust. Who needs a trust? Please, I want to emphasize this point. You need to go to an elder law attorney and get this set up. I am always amazed because when I refer people to elder law attorneys, they say, well, the cost. You're going to end up spending probably hundreds of thousands of dollars when you go to assisted living or a care facility. Spend the money now to go to a qualified elder law attorney, get your affairs in order. Now, a lot has changed in the 10 years since my parents have passed. The second thing I would advise you to do is go to something like Advocates Care Coordination. This was not here 10 years ago, okay? First step, get your affairs in order. Second, go to a care coordination service such as Advocates. Sit down with Daniela and be able to say, I want to come up with a comprehensive care plan. What are my options, okay? This is very, very important. What do I want to do? Do I want to live and die at home? Okay, what type of home care services will I need to be able to do this, okay? Again, it's worth the time. This was not available 10 years ago. So I will say, the second step is to, again, care coordination, go in with someone who's an expert in this field and say, okay, I want a comprehensive assessment of my situation. What are my options? What do you want to do? And also the ability to come up with a care plan. And also help someone helping you guide you. If your goal is, okay, I want to sell the house, we want to move into independent living, what are my options here, okay? You have to do the homework, and here is why. I see too many cases of people who say, well, I'm in my mid-80s, my late 80s, I'm going to go in a couple of years. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. I hate to be called the Grim Reaper, but I'm surrounded by death and dying in my job, and it's part of life. Most people who fail to plan just think, you know what, someday, I won't wake up and go downstairs for breakfast. It's never like this, okay? It's that death and dying, growing old is a process. We will all face it. So when you think you are old, chances are if you're in fairly good health, you probably have another 10 or 15 years left. This is why I tell you, I know, you're like, no, it's not going to happen. It will happen, okay? So what I will tell you is take the time first, go to an elder law attorney, get your affairs in order. Again, it is what you want, not what your kids want, what your friends want, it's what you want. Then go to a care coordination service. Get the experience, knowledgeable experience of saying, okay, I want an assessment. What are my options? What do I need to do going forward? Would I like a care plan? Would I like to get private services at home? Or, no, we'd really like to go independent living, assisted living. What are my options? For those who decide to choose the independent assisted living sites, do not go to the first one and just put down a down payment because you love what the dining room looked like and the food being serviced. Okay? No. Assisted living sites are popping up everywhere. They are amazing. Okay? You walk in there, I feel like, again, I'm at the Taj Mahal. Okay? You're going to be doing investigative work. Don't get caught up on the independent living side of it and saying, oh, all these meals, and I don't need a lot of services right now. This is great. It is great when you're on the independent side. What you need to be looking at is the assisted living and the dementia care part of it, and figure out, okay, what services are they going to provide for me? What is the cost of those services? And please, conservative estimate. Start figuring out, okay, maybe I get another 5 to 7 years. Crunch the numbers, saying, can I do this for a good 5 or 7 years? What will be the cost? Dementia care, it's a reality. My father was a corporate exec, brilliant, lovely, lovely man. I had 1/10 of the man he was. What I will tell you is he went from this great man to his final years, he was assaulting people, okay? He had lost his mind. The assisted living site we went to, I should say, had wonderful dementia care services. So you're also going to be looking at that side of it. So those are the 3 steps, again, you need to make when you go to assisted living. Please take a trip to 3 or 4 different sites, okay? But do the digging, look at the cost, but again, not so much a focus on the independent, look at the assisted living, the dementia care, and crunch the numbers. Luckily, Jay hasn't met me because he would have put some masking tape on me because I love to talk. So I will pass, again, the mic over. And if I can be of any help to you in any way, I will stay extra. And if you just want to talk to me, need advice, I'm here for you, okay? God bless.
So there you go, right? So there's somebody who's done it. There's somebody who has done it both professionally, and everybody up here has done it personally. That's one of the reasons I became an elder law estate planning attorney. I'm going to go through all of the things with my clients that you're going to go through. I took care of aging parents. I'm getting older. I'm talking about helping out in-laws, figuring out what everyone's care plan is going to look like. And that's really what we're talking about. We're just talking about figuring out what your guideposts are going to look like. You know, and if you want to stay home, have that conversation with folks and understand what the realities of those wishes look like, both from a care perspective and from a financial perspective. I worked at Fidelity for 17 years as an investment advisor. We still manage money for clients today. We have not a conversation that just focuses on the commercials you see on TV, right? Where everyone's on a boat, everyone has what we call yacht hair, right? All the financial commercials, that's what it looks like, right? Everyone's hiking the Himalayas and all this other crazy stuff. And that may be true for a window of time, but you need to play long ball with this. You need to really understand what the plan looks like. And I'm going to have Daniela come up in a second, but you can have multiple plans. You can have an A plan, you can have a B plan, you can have a C plan. You know, your retirement planning and your lifestyle is going to look different at 65 than it is at 75, than it is at 85. At some point, the bike trip in Vietnam is not an option. Every single person I talk to, I feel like everybody feels like when I turn 65, I have to go on a Viking river cruise, right? Everyone's doing it, right? And where are they going? Alaska. Everybody's going to Alaska. You would think they were giving away land up there. Every single person I talk to, we're doing the Viking River Cruise to Alaska. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Happy birthday. How did you know I just turned 65? Oh, they give you the government gives you the trip as a present when you turn 65. Everybody's doing that stuff, all right? This is part of the journey. The journey there are some consistencies, and these people see it and issue spot it, okay? So, more to come.
Do I need this? Can you guys hear me? I have a big mouth.
We need it for the video.
You need it for the video. Okay, sorry. All right. I'm Daniela Masters. I am the owner of Aging Well Advocates. We are a private care management company. What is a care manager? We work with the aging population and their families to help them navigate this entire process that everyone is talking about. This is a process. How do we do that? We come into your homes. We see how things are going in your homes. What is working? What is not working right now? What are your goals, right? This is very, very important. You are the ones that are running this show. Your children are fantastic, your siblings are fantastic, your best friends are fantastic, but you are the ones that are running this show. So it is very important to know what the options are for you. So I am a licensed independent clinical social worker. I have worked in the field of aging for over 30 years. I worked in long-term care facilities. I worked in assisted living. I worked at Milford Hospital for 10 years. And in 2018, I started this practice. Why did I start this practice? Having worked in the hospital, and I don't know if any of you have been to any hospital, not just Milford, or if your loved ones have, I was very frustrated at the hospital. I would see clients, I would get 15 minutes to talk to them, basically throw some resources at them, and then that would be it, right? Because you don't get to stay in the hospital very long these days, and out you go back home. Well, 2 to 3 weeks later, I would see the same person again. And it's because we're not fixing any problems. Like, the issue that you came to the hospital for may have been fixed, but there are other circumstances leading to why you keep coming to the hospital. Those are the areas that are not being addressed by anyone. And that is why I started the practice, so that I can really get to know my clients, I can get to know their families, I can get to know what they want, and our goal is simply to make sure that you have the best quality of life that you can have, whether that's for the next 5 years or for the next 25 years. In order to do that, though, you have to do the planning that both Jay and Larry have talked about. You have to do the planning. The majority of the phone calls that I get are from family members when a crisis has occurred, right? Mom is in the hospital. Mom just fell, she fractured her hip. The doctors are saying this. I don't know what that means. They're pressuring us to leave. I don't know where to go. I don't know if Mom is going to be able to go back home again. We can help in those situations. We can help in those situations. We can get involved in the hospital and help you understand what the doctor's saying. Make sure the doctor and the nurses are doing what you deserve to have done, because there are specific regulations out there, which most people don't know, because why would we know those regulations? But I know those regulations, and I will make sure that you are getting the care that you need. And push back to say, they want you to leave tomorrow. No, we're not ready to leave tomorrow. These things still need to be taken care of. I can then help you find an appropriate rehab for you to go to if that's necessary. It's based on lots of different things, but we want to find a rehab that's going to do the best care for you so that you can leave there and go back to the community or your environment that you're already in. Once you get back to that environment, do you need visiting nurses to come in? Do you need a little private help to get you through the transition until you feel like you're back to yourself? We can help with all of that. We sit down with you and really listen to what you want, and we make a plan with you. And we can have multiple plans, like Jay said. I encourage people to do multiple plans because we don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years or 10 years or even 5 months. But we want to come up with a couple of plans and make sure all of our ducks are in a row, both from the financial standpoint, the legal standpoint, so that you know what options are available for you. There are a number of options out there as you age. I can't possibly begin to talk to you about all of them today, unfortunately. We have limited time. But I am more than happy to set up just an assessment with anyone here just to kind of start the process of what do we want and how are we going to make that happen. I am hoping that you will have lots of questions for us coming forward. I love the questions. If there's anything at all that you'd like to ask me, I will also be here after the event. I'm happy to speak with you. Thank you so much for coming. This is a wonderful turnout.
Thank you so much. So, Larry, how many folks do you talk to in the course of a year?
Yeah, probably close to 1,500, maybe 2,000.
All right. How about yourself?
Gosh, I don't know. I would probably say closer to maybe 200.
All right. I can ask Kathy. It's probably easier to ask Kathy what house in Holliston she hasn't sold. All right. Right?
I would say conversations, probably 30 to 50.
Got it. Okay.
Conversations, I mean, daily, probably 4 or 5 times a day, so I would say about 1,500 to 2,000 per year.
Okay?
I love talking to people.
All right, we probably do 20 estate plans a month at my office. So we probably have 200 conversations a year with people just about estate planning, which always involves a conversation about what happens if you get sick and you need long-term care. So when I say you're talking to the people who have had countless conversations, and by countless conversations, I mean countless different scenarios, right? Because every situation is different, right? Some people have a very straightaway, no issues, everybody gets along. And then every one of these folks can tell you about a weird scenario where somebody's off the reservation and they're making it very difficult to have care decisions around mom and dad or mom or dad because somebody thinks differently. How do we kind of mediate that? So at this stage of the game, it gets hard to find situations that don't sort of dovetail into some of the things. I'm not saying that there's not a new, unique scenario out there, but what I'm saying is you're talking to having a support network of people who can really triage some of these issues and come up with some very unique and customizable situations that you might come up with. So again, this is all about planning and kind of understanding what your glide path looks like, no matter what you choose, right? I mean, we've all been through this. I've been through it. Kathy and I have had this conversation 100 times. I'm 57 years old. My kids are not in the house anymore. If anybody knows where I live, if you ever see my house, my driveway is basically just waiting for me to fall and break my hip, all right? It's a train wreck. So I don't know if I'll be there forever. So I'm gonna, at some point, have to decide if this isn't the right place for me, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna have to sell my house. I'm gonna have to find another living arrangement. So this is not an age conversation. This is a lifestyle conversation. I say that because it's important, because if I make it an age conversation, everybody gets bummed out, right? It's not an age conversation. This is a lifestyle conversation with you, your spouse, and your family. I'm going to turn it over to Kathy.
Thank you, Jane. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Chisholm, and I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about, to dovetail onto what Jay said about lifestyle decisions and making a plan. Whether that's staying in your home and just making it a little more open for you, easier to get around. If you do decide to make a decision to go to independent living or to someplace like Cornerstone and you're thinking about selling your house, what might some of those things be that you want to take care of ahead of time so that you're not making a reactive decision? As Daniela mentioned, someone breaks their hip and then you're forced to make a quick decision. Staying ahead of it and making a proactive decision. So things like just opening up your space, opening up hallways, pathways to your bedroom, your bathroom, just making it easier for you to navigate in your own space. And should you ever decide to make a move, you've already done one step of that planning. And it really is all about planning. Should you decide to move here in Holliston, of course, we're all septic, and so that tends to be a big question looming over people. How do I handle a failed septic? Should I test my septic? Do I have to install a septic? These are questions that come up repeatedly with everyone in Holliston. So there are steps that you can take to manage that. Having just gone through a lifestyle move, I just downsized. I can really relate to packing up boxes, figuring out what to keep, what to get rid of. How do I get rid of it? It's so hard to get rid of things now, and there are lots of resources to do that. But everything that you do just makes the lifestyle that you lead a little bit easier. So happy to have conversations with anyone at any time about that, whether you're staying in your home, you're thinking about moving in 1 year or 10 years. I just had a closing yesterday with a client that I've been working with since 2016. She was thinking of downsizing her house, moving into a condo, and we took a long time doing it, and she finally found the right place at the right time. And that's really what it is, and it's your time. It's when it's right for you. So feel free to reach out to me at any time, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
So Kathy gave me a great suggestion one day. We were talking about, she mentioned septic, she mentioned some of these things. And so when we're talking about the financial lifestyle decision around things like this, I think this is where you start to think, you work with somebody like Kathy, she's thinking out of the box, right? I've heard her suggest to either to my clients or even to myself, if you're thinking about selling, why don't we have a home inspection now? Not a week before you close, not a month before you close. Let's have a home inspection now. So Jay, you, as the potential or the prospective seller, have a real understanding of what you may or may not need to do to get your house ready for sale. We talk about the moving and the boxes and the pictures and all that stuff. But then when it gets to the lawyers and the realtors, we want to talk about things like, is my septic going to be a problem? Am I going to have to put a new roof on the house? Am I going to have to make repairs or upgrades that are going to take time and that are going to cost money? Because everybody is so eager to jump on Zillow and say, well, how much do I think I'll get for my house, without understanding if you haven't put a paintbrush on the house in 50 years, it's going to affect the value. And that value then translates into fewer care dollars if you think that your house is going to be the focal point of what you're going to use to fund your care. Well, my parents passed away. We sold their house. They lived in Medford near Tufts University, right near the end of the brand spanking new Green Line. And I thought to myself, this is going to be a windfall. Mom and Dad, great savings, multifamily, this is going to be wonderful. I thought about buying it. My wife said buy it. We were in divorce court, so I didn't buy it, okay? But we looked at it. I looked on Zillow, and Zillow said it was worth $950,000. And so I'm just doing math right away. Even though I went to law school, I can still do a little bit of math. And so I was thinking, this is going to be great. Well, then we got a broker in. And the broker came in and looked it over. Well, first we tried to do it ourselves. Don't judge. Try to do it ourselves. And that was a train wreck. 0, 0, 0 love. And I thought, this is crazy. I'm a 5-iron from Tufts University and the Green Line. This is going to be fantastic. Well, we neglected a couple of things that we thought weren't a big deal. But apparently, when you're buying a house, they're important. One of the things that people really like in a house that we found out was heat on all the floors in the house. Because when my parents renovated the house to make room for extra kids, my father's philosophy was heat rises, and so I don't need to put heat on the 3rd floor because there's a little teeny tiny opening that a stairway comes through, and all of the heat should come up there. And I started to remember, no wonder every Christmas I got an electric blanket from Santa Claus. This all made perfect sense. So when you go to the marketplace in 2025 and you offer for sale a house that doesn't have any heat on the 3rd floor, those rooms don't count as bedrooms. And so all of a sudden we had to adjust our expectations. And if I was going at this and making decisions about which one of these wonderful care folks I'm going to work with, because I have a pile of money to work with, I'm not going to have a pile of money to work with because I have to give a whole bunch of it back to either renovations or I just have to price it accordingly. So you need to talk to these folks when there is no emergency so that you can understand and assess your options in a way that doesn't say, oh my God, the house is burning down around me. You want to get in front of a lot of these things and have the different plans laid out so that you can understand what option A does, what option B does, and what option C does. And then this is not our last person, by the way, but for any reason other than we kind of try to take you through the plan here. So I'm going to turn it over to Alicia about this. Please let all of us speak equally. Everybody's part of your plan. We're not choosing anybody up here.
Thanks so much, Jay. How is everybody today? Thank you so much for coming out. My name is Alicia McCallum, and I'm the Director of Community Outreach at Cornerstone at Milford. So first, a show of hands. How many of you are worried about losing your independence? That's very normal. Another show of hands. How many of you feel safe at home right now? And one more question. How many of you are worried about things happening in the future in the probability of feeling safe at home?
I don't understand the question.
So that's a great question. So the reason I'm asking this is it's the biggest fear. I completely understand. Everyone is worried about losing their independence, and all of these folks would agree. So at an assisted living community, there's a lot of stigma out there that moving into assisted living, you're gonna lose your independence. But I have great news for you. You actually can keep your independence and still feel very safe and well cared for. At Cornerstone, we have 65 apartments on assisted living. We have studio and one-bedroom apartments. We also have a memory support neighborhood where we have 25 apartments. The morning starts with movement. You start with morning exercise, great way to start your day. I'm sure you'll all agree. And then you get to eat in our restaurant where you're served 3 meals a day. Then you get to participate in all of our wonderful activities, everything from music therapy, pet therapy, art therapy. We take you on excursions to the Museum of Fine Arts, all different museums, shopping trips, doctor's appointments. Every Friday we have happy hour on our patio when it's nice out, or in our cafe. We do so many fun activities. So the stigma out there that independence, you're gonna lose your independence when you move into an assisted living is not true. We really have our residents age in place. You can move into an assisted living community with not needing any care, having a low level of care. We would have our nurse come out and do an assessment, either at your home, or we would have you, the best thing to do is to come in for lunch, enjoy our wonderful food. We do our brain healthy cooking program at Cornerstone that was developed by our owners, senior living residences, over 30 years ago. They really put a lot of thought and research into how food and the brain and the body is all related. We actually serve fish 9 to 11 times a week, a lot of fruits and vegetables, healthy grains, healthy oils. And in our dining room, the waitresses and waiters will wait on you and you get to choose what you'd like from the menu. How does that sound? I want to move in some days. I like to say it's like a cruise ship without the water. So we would assess you, either like I said, at your home, or you come to lunch in our community, and then we develop an individual service plan to determine what level of care you would need. So your level of care would be different from her level of care. Sometimes that will change. A lot of the times it's going to change. When you move in, you can be very independent to not using a walker, not needing help with your medication, not needing help with your daily living activities. So you can come in and still dress yourself, still bathe yourself, do everything independently, to then changing and aging in place in our community, needing maybe a walker later on or a wheelchair where your condition would then change and our nurse would reassess you and determine what level of care you would be at that place. You can come in with being cognitively aware with mild dementia or Alzheimer's, and then age in place where that would change to more of like a moderate or severe case. Then you would transition over to our memory care neighborhood and we would change your level of care there. So we talk about planning, like all the experts here said, that's very important, and aging in place. So a lot of people think, oh, if I move into assisted living, there's not gonna be care for me. Or what happens when I go on hospice? Are they gonna be able to come there and see me and accommodate me in assisted living? The answer is yes, we can do that. And if you come from rehab, or if you fall while you're in assisted living and go to rehab, then we would make a smooth transition from rehab back to assisted living, do a reassessment, and then we can have the VNA services like PT and OT come to the community, bless you, to see you. We have options that your doctor can come to the community to see you. we can take you in the community van to your doctor's appointments, to your dentist appointments. So everything that you're doing now when moving in, you're still going to be able to do. You're not going to be in prison. You can still go out to dinner with your family as many times as you like. And some actually move in are still driving. So you can take your car out in the community and come back. One of the great options we have that a lot of places don't have is something called a respite short-term trial option. So I like to compare it to like a hotel stay. So just try us out. You can stay as little as a week, 2 weeks, a month. We require no minimums, and we'll provide you a fully furnished apartment, all the furniture, all toiletries, linens, etc. Just pack a bag like you were staying at a hotel. And you can have our food, participate in all of our wonderful activities, and get the level of care that you may need, if you do need care, and just try us out and see how it is with no commitment. So that's a great option that we offer. Any questions?
Do you have rehab in your facility?
That's a great question. We do not have rehab there, but the PT and OT and other services can come into our community to see you.
Can your own private doctor can come in?
Yes, or we can bring you in the community van to the doctor, or we actually have a doctor that comes in, it's actually a nurse practitioner, to see our residents. About 45% of our residents have switched to our nurse practitioner because she comes to our community every Monday to see residents. But thank you, Jay and the team, for having me today. I'll be available for any questions afterwards, and pass it over back to you.
Great, thank you so much. A lot of talk about food today, by the way, so could I have a round of applause for the folks at Golden Pond who provided the food for us. Every time we do planning as an elder law, estate planning law firm. By the way, the difference between an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney is just that the elder law attorney says, well, what happens if somebody gets sick and needs long-term care? That's it. That's the only difference. Other than that, we're all worried about the same things. Who would be in charge if you couldn't be in charge? What happens if something happens to somebody? But we always say to our clients that the key to this sort of long-term care, continuum of care journey is you're always looking one move ahead. That's really the key to this, right? You've heard from a panel of experts that can talk about where things go. And I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know where anybody's going to be. I took care of my parents, taking care of some in-laws. I don't know what is around the next curve. And all of this, in many cases, is health-driven. It's not, I keep highlighting the fact, this is not an age conversation. It's lifestyle planning. It's health-driven. You know, we've had clients that have young kids for any number of reasons that needed to be in a group home setting. It wasn't an age situation. Their health required that to be the way that they wanted to set things up. So this is how we want you to think about it. Think one move ahead. Don't be afraid to have a conversation with the folks who have lots of conversations about these things and ask lots of questions. What would happen if this? What would happen if that? Kind of play these things out. And also, if you're comfortable and if it makes sense and if the dynamic works, have the conversation with the people in your life who would be your support network. Could be kids, could be grandkids, could be nieces, could be nephews, could be friends, but make sure that everybody understands the plan. This is what I'd love to see happen, but if this can't happen, what about this? And if this definitely can't happen, then what about this? This way, everybody sort of knows the framework of the journey and be realistic about it, because you may say, well, I'm a 5-star Cadillac type of gal, but for a whole host of reasons, the finances keep me down here at the Toyota Camry part of the journey, because this is really expensive, and if I want to do this, then it means making other decisions. Because that's all you're doing, right? You're looking at all the decisions. We have clients that come in all the time and say, come hell or high water, I'm not selling the house. And then we say, well, what happens if you need care? How are we going to do this? Well, I'm going to go to an assisted living facility. Yeah, but then you're going to have to sell the house. But I'm not selling the house. But who's going to pay for the house? Well, I'm not paying for the house. The kids are going to pay for the house. Can the kids afford the house? I don't know. I never asked them. We never talked about this, right? This is what we're trying to foster by these conversations, by these events. Have a conversation. Talk, and seek out the professionals who have done this countless times so they can kind of put you in the right direction that you need to go. We'll do a quick Q&A. If anybody has anything, I'm happy to answer them, and then we'll let you get back to your Wednesday afternoon. Anything? Yeah, right here.
In regards to the septic systems, if you decide you want to just check to see how your septic system is and say it's borderline or there's a problem, does the state force you within 2 years to have it upgraded to?
That's a great question. If you decide to check your system out just to see if you would pass, if you pass, get it written up and hang on to that, because that's your golden ticket to selling.
And how long is that good for?
It's good for up to 3 years. 2 years if you don't pump every year, 3 years if you pump twice, so you get that bonus year. If you don't pass, or it doesn't look like you're going to pass, ask for what's called a voluntary test, which means if it doesn't pass, it's between you and the inspector. It does not get reported to the Board of Health, and the state does not make you upgrade the system. So that's very helpful information. That's a really good question.
And if you're not clear about that, let's say you just made the phone call, the words voluntary test never crossed your lips, what would happen?
I don't think it would get reported.
Okay.
I don't think, most of the time it does not get reported. Another thing to think about, and this is part of the planning, is that if you do need to and are able to and opt to replace that system, there is a tax credit available, and I believe it's $6,000, although I just heard that that went up, over 3 years. So it is beneficial to go ahead and do that sooner rather than later for a number of reasons, one of which is that. And that brings me to one last thing that I thought of when I was sitting down, which is we're seeing a lot of sales where open permits have become an issue. People, myself included, when I sold my house, have no idea that the basement that you finished, which was my case, the roof you put on, the windows, the contractor never closed the permit out. How would you know? It's very smart to go down to town hall or call and just ask if there are any open permits. If it's within a reasonable window, they'll allow you to go ahead and get that permit closed. It's just one less thing you have to worry about if and when you sell the house.
And by the way, that open permit issue is not just for work that you did. This is for also work that the previous owner might have done and not closed out. We've had this situation, I know it might have even been the same deal. Somebody had work done on their house, they had a deck done. The deck didn't get closed out, they didn't get inspected, they didn't do all these things. And our client was furious.
They had no idea.
And they said, I didn't put that deck on, that had nothing to do with me. And my answer is, they don't care.
Yeah, you become
They don't care.
responsible. Yeah.
And the buyer is all wigged out because they think, well, this wasn't inspected, how bad was it done? And if there's electrical work and things like that, you can start talking about opening up walls and plumbing, and so it's a mess.
Yeah.
So this goes back to the either check for the open permits, and then let's focus on the fact that you can, you're not required to have that report done, but that voluntary inspection so that you know right off the top, A, I'm gonna get the work done, maybe, and then B, that's, if you don't have the money out of pocket, most people don't have the money out of pocket. It's a $30,000 expense.
Yeah, upwards of $30,000, yeah.
And so now you need to know that you're going to find somebody who's willing to do the work and possibly wait until the house closes to get paid out of sales proceeds, which not everybody's willing to do. So this is talking about planning a huge move. You finally come to the point where you say to yourself, all right, we're going to sell the house. And then these minefields are out there that you didn't even know were going to be there. So this is where the planning is key. And if you're working with anybody else on this panel, this all dovetails into it. If you're leaving here to go to an assisted living facility and you want to move in and you've got your room reserved and your house doesn't go, your house sale gets put off because this problem, then you're gonna say, well, are they gonna hold my room? I was gonna use the money from the house sale to be in the apartment, or to be in the unit at my assisted living facility. Now I either have to come up with more money, which I may or may not have, to hold the unit, or I lose the unit, and then, and Daniela's got all this time in to try to figure out is that still the right move? Maybe that place doesn't work anymore, and Larry's kind of going, well, we talked about this at the senior center, and you can't sign the paperwork because you didn't. This all comes together. This is why we do these panels this way. This is all interwoven. If you never bring us together, we will all end up talking to each other at some point during this conversation about this. So think about it, do the planning, kind of walk the walk, and coordinate it. Have your team in place as you start this journey, as you start to look on the horizon and say, I think I need to get some people on my side, and I would really like to know who they are before it's an emergency. So great questions, great feedback. Anybody else? Yes?
The open permits,
Yep.
if a town says, yes, you have open permits at your address, blah, 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 they have to show you proof, correct?
I believe they do, yeah. Yeah, and then you're just gonna sort it out and see what the issue is.
Yeah.
And you'd rather do that when there's no pressing time, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times somebody says, but I have a closing scheduled in a week and a half. Well, I don't know how we're gonna get this squared away by then. We could put this whole thing off, and people get skittish, right? It's a big deal. Other questions? Yeah.
If you have long-term care policy,
Yep.
how do you make the transition where you have private help to help and you can't pay them directly anymore? You have to have 3 months lead up for the long-term care to kick in.
So the question was, how do you handle the transition between long-term care and the private pay period? So I think what you're talking about is there's an elimination period if you have a long-term care policy that usually says 90 days, right? You tell the insurance company today, I'm pulling the trigger on this benefit. They will then say, great, we have 90 days to kind of process the paperwork, make sure that this is actually a legitimate claim, that we'll be able to pay the claim. And I'm going to defer to Daniela, she might have the answer, but my understanding is that you would be coming out of pocket with that. So you're going to have, privately, so you're going to have the money to get you through the 90-day period while you're lining up all your care. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is every long-term care insurance policy is different. That is really the most difficult part. So you have to really read your policy and understand what the stipulation is. Some policies, that 90 days means 90 solid days of care. So for instance, my mother-in-law had a long-term care insurance policy, and she was perfectly fine, like literally perfectly fine. And then in September, she started not feeling well. A week she wasn't feeling well, she ended up in the hospital. We got a call Saturday night that she had stage 4 lung cancer. Like, this woman was driving completely independent. So when we started the long-term care insurance policy, she was only getting care 2-3 days a week. So what they look at is, if you're only getting care 3 days a week, that means 3 days a week you have to get to 90 days of care. Not just 90 days total. It has to be the care that you're receiving to hit that 90-day mark.
So do the math. Again, I'm a lawyer. There's no math in law school, but that's what,
It's
9-10 months of private care?
It's a lot.
Yes.
Right, it's a lot, but there's ways around it. There's ways around it that we can work on, like getting you like an hour of care a day, because that then meets your criteria for care. So there are ways that we can work around it. The other thing also with long-term care insurance policies, I don't know if anyone has them in the room, if you should need to be on hospice, the long-term care insurance policy kicks in immediately. The 90-day elimination is waived. That's also something that you should know. Does anyone here have long-term care insurance policies? Good job, good job.
Well, and you probably bought them back when they hadn't figured
When
out
they
the
were
underwriting, so they actually do something for you, right? So that's the good news, right? So good for those of you who were that forethinking to get them. Yeah.
Say you have long-term care policy and you spend many thousands over the years, and you die before you use it. You've lost it all, or is there a way you can adjust it for your spouse or?
Again, you have to really look at your policy. They're all so different, but most of the time, you lose it. Like,
On the older policies, it's use it or lose it.
right,
And then the industry developed these return of premium policies.
Right.
And some policies have a little life insurance rider.
Right.
So that if you never used it, somebody usually gets an amount of money that's at least equal to the premium. It's usually got a little bump on it. Those are called hybrid policies. The insurance companies tried to figure out what do people hate about these things, and that's one of them. So they kind of build in these other, things that you can add to the chassis to make it better.
And it's important to know what your policy is. Some policies are, 3 years. Some policies are $400,000. It is important to know what that policy is. And you do want to actually start utilizing it. I think a lot of people wait until they absolutely can't wait anymore to start utilizing it. And then sometimes you're not getting all the benefit from it.
And it's designed to improve your quality of life, so don't wait until the absolute, because then you don't get the benefit.
Wait.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my clients literally has a lifetime policy, so it will go until he dies. And it is basically paying, I want to say it's $9,000 a month he gets, so it is basically paying for his assisted living for the rest of his life,
I mean, think about that.
so that's a great policy.
And by the way, they don't sell that anymore.
Yeah, they don't sell those anymore.
FYI.
If you don't have it, so sorry.
And they're non-transferable, so you can't give it to anybody. Other questions? Anybody? Going once? Going, yep.
Which professional would help you understand your policy? So yes, read your long-term care policy, but
I
which
can help you do
understand it better?
Yeah, I can help you do that. And Jay probably can too, right?
Yeah, we do. We do it for clients, not to take away from either evaluation. But I also say, you know who you want to talk to? The person who sold it to you, right? I mean, they made a commission off it, right? They should be able to explain it to you. The challenge is they might not be in the business anymore. So then you're going to come to somebody who reads it. Yep, so that's right. So it's either myself or Daniela. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Daniela, when do you start putting a plan together for care?
Today. It's always today. Because I'm happy to come out, do an assessment with you, go through all of this with you, and then you say to me, this is awesome. This is what I needed. This is so helpful for me. I don't need you anymore. Great. I go into the background. We don't need to talk anymore. If something happens, you then can reach out and say, this is what happened. So-and-so's in the hospital. Something has changed. We need you back involved to now start putting these pieces together for us. Now that we have the plan, now we need the pieces put together.
And Alicia mentioned this a minute ago about control, right? Wouldn't it be nice to take control and know who you're working with? I mean, I've worked with Daniela. She's absolutely wonderful. There may be another Daniela out there who's a total monster. Not her, obviously. She's not. But there might be somebody that you might not connect with. There might be somebody that doesn't understand your particular needs. There might be somebody who just doesn't get you. And so wouldn't it be nice to have all of this kind of figured out to say, look, if this happens and it's a legal thing, call the lawyer. And here's who they are. Maybe it's us, maybe it's somebody else, but it's somebody you know, somebody you've worked with, somebody you trust. Makes it a lot easier for your children, your kids, whoever's helping you with the decision making. And oh, by the way, if I have some care needs, heavy duty care needs, maybe it's a conversation with Larry, maybe it's a conversation with Daniela. At least they know who to pick up the phone. We tell every one of our clients, your kids don't have to know how to be a power of attorney. They don't have to know how to be a trustee. They just have to be able to take some direction. We can explain it to them. They just need to know where to go, right? I think I'm going to get ready to sell the house. It isn't working. I've already talked to Kathy. She's come out. This is who you want to call. And guess what? She knows too, right? We all take notes. We all write stuff down, right? I've looked at a number of different assisted living facilities. And guess what? when I knew which one I wanted to go to, this was the one. I really liked it. I really connected with the people and the food and the resources and the activities. And you're taking that burden off of people. You know, our clients come in the office, everyone's so focused on, should I pay for my funeral? Who cares about the funeral? Don't worry about paying for your funeral. Have you picked these other things? These are more important. The funeral is going to get taken care of. Don't worry. That bill will get paid. Trust me. This other stuff, let's focus on this. This is a little more important. Let's focus on that. Other questions? All right, well, I think you're all allowed to go back for seconds, maybe thirds for some of you. I'm not going to point anybody out. And I hope this was helpful. If it was, communicated to the folks here at the center. I know that we are happy to kind of do these things with some regularity. Every once in a while, we might even rotate the participants so you get a different feel for everyone's different opinion. And again, we always want you to kind of experiment, talk to people. But this is really about planning, getting in front of all this stuff. And if there's things that you think need some attention, talk to the pros. They're in the room. They'll hang around for a little bit. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope to continue to do more of these for everybody. And if you liked it and you enjoyed it, tell your friends, tell them to call us, and we can start this conversation privately, one-on-one, and address your very individual specific issues. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.